What's up, people? My name is James Blissett, professional gambler and founder of Lucrative MMA, which is my handicapping service where we help people make money from betting on MMA. And today, I want to be speaking to you about Jamahal Hill versus Glover Teixeira, which is the upcoming main event. UFC 283 is for the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship. Kind of a shame, since we had one of the best fights of last year, 2022. We had the rematch pulled out from us. I think Jiri had to pull out for some reason. I don't actually remember the reason. It happened about 2 weeks ago. So they've replaced Jiri Prochazka with Jamahal Hill. It's still going to be a great fight. You know, any fight that Glover is in, honestly, is a great fight. And any fight that Jamahal Hill is in, honestly, is a great fight. So it's a little bit of a shame, because obviously I didn't feel like the 5-round fight was conclusive. Obviously, it was a finish by Jiri Prochazka, but I felt like Glover kind of looked like the one that should have won that fight. So I was happy to see a rematch. I was happy to see Glover get another chance. But I'm also happy to see Jamahal Hill get a shot at the belt, because I do think he's a very good fighter. And yeah, we'll be breaking it down today. I'll keep this breakdown, you know, fairly short, about 10 minutes or so. And first of all, I'm just going to bring up their records and stuff, because I got it here so I don't get it wrong. And yeah, I want to say that this is a very good fight. I can't wait for this fight. And it's a tough fight to call, honestly, because any fight that Glover Teixeira is in is kind of tough to call, in my opinion, simply because he gets wobbled in every single fight. Glover Teixeira gets wobbled in basically every single fight he fights. So we'll have a look at his record, right? Jiri Prochazka, he obviously got wobbled in that fight, you know, many, many times. The Jan Blachowicz fight, I don't actually remember him getting wobbled in that fight. I think he just completely dominated. And shout out to him, because I had a bet on him in that fight. Plus 200 or something, which was a crazy line in hindsight. And then the Thiago Santos fight, he obviously got wobbled in that fight many, many times. I also had a bet on him there. I think, again, it was like plus 200. And he cashed for me there again, so shout out to him. Anthony Smith fight, I don't actually think he got wobbled in that fight. He may have. I remember that was a complete domination. But if you even go back to his Carl Robertson fight, I mean, Carl Robertson dropped him, you know, which is not a great look, because Carl Robertson's not the best fighter. But at the end of the day, Glover gets hurt or wobbled in most of the fights he fights. But he finds a way to come back through. He's extremely resilient. But because of that reason, the fights are quite volatile, right? Anytime somebody is getting wobbled multiple times and then coming back to win, by definition, their fights are volatile. You might think, oh, he's got great resilience, you know, he's got a bit of a bad chin, but he has good recoverability. But at the end of the day, you can't keep getting wobbled in MMA. I don't care who you are. You cannot keep getting wobbled. Eventually, you're going to get knocked out. And I did a post on Twitter earlier today, and I said that Glover isn't going to keep on getting wobbled every fight. One of these days, he's going to get deaded, Rumble Johnson style. Because I remember back in the day, rest in peace to Rumble Johnson, he knocked him out with a clean uppercut in about 16 seconds, right? So that is going to happen to Glover Teixeira at some point, especially since he's getting older. You know, what's the first thing to go when you get older? A lot of the time is durability, right? Speed, but durability is definitely one that goes as you get older. And Glover's 42 years old now. He was 42 years old last time he fought Jiri Prochazka. So, I mean, that was back in June. So, I mean, he might even be 43 now. He is 43. He had a birthday in October. So, he's 43 years old. I don't think he's going to keep surviving these spots where he gets knocked down or wobbled and come back. But he's a master of it, you know. At some point, it's going to end. Is it going to end here? There's a good chance of it ending here. But what he does well, he does extremely well. He's a great wrestler. He's a very good boxer and an underrated boxer. And when he gets on top, he has crushing top game. He dominates almost every single one of his opponents from top position. You know, he hasn't really struggled with anyone when he's got on top of them, at least in the last 5 years or so. So he's going to definitely be shooting takedowns here. He knows he needs to get the fight to the ground to win. And then that begs the question, is he going to be able to get Jamahal Hill down? So we speak about Jamahal Hill a little bit. Is he going to be able to defend the takedowns of Glover Teixeira? I don't think so. We go back to Jamahal Hill's last fight, right? Hill's last fight. It was against Thiago Santos, and he gave up 6 takedowns in that fight. I think people might look at that stat and go, oh, 6 takedowns, you know, surely Glover can get him down. And I do agree that Glover can get him down because he's a much better wrestler than Thiago Santos. But something that you may overlook if you're a wiki capper or a stats guy is that in that fight, Thiago Santos shot many takedowns in the first and second rounds, and he got 0 of them. Jamahal Hill done a very, very good job at defending the takedowns, the single legs, the double legs, the clinches, whatever it may be. He did a good job defending takedowns there, and I was actually very impressed with his takedown defense. You know, I was rewatching that fight earlier today, and I was thinking to myself, because I saw the stats before the fight, I knew Thiago Santos got 6 takedowns. And I was thinking to myself, like, when are the takedowns going to come? Because he's just defending everything right now. Alas, in the third round, Jamahal Hill got taken down 5 times by Thiago Santos. So he was able to get many, many takedowns on him there. I don't really know what happened. It seemed like Jamahal Hill gassed out a little bit in that round. And we do see that a lot in MMA. You know, I don't know if you've noticed it at all, but when you get a 5-round fight, we often see fighters tire out in the 3rd round, but then get a second wind in that 4th and 5th round. And I feel like that's what happened to Jamahal Hill, because in the 3rd round, he did look quite tired. He did look gassed. Thiago Santos took him down 5 times. He did a good job. He got back up to his feet every single time, but he still did get taken down. And his takedown defense definitely waned a little bit from the 1st and 2nd rounds, right? But what happened was the 4th round came. And, you know, at this point, Thiago Santos is up 2 rounds, right? So he won the 1st round, then he won the 3rd round. Unanimously, the 3rd round and the 1st round, he won on 2 judges' scorecards. So he's up 2-1 going into the championship rounds. And you're liking his chances because you're thinking that Jamahal Hill may have been broken now because no takedowns for the first 2 rounds. And then the 3rd round, Thiago Santos gets loads of takedowns. Maybe Santos is breaking him. But Santos actually looked to be a little bit broken himself come that 4th round because he exerted so much energy in that 3rd round trying to get the takedowns that he was just so tired in the 4th round. And I think that's one of the reasons why he was able to get so many takedowns, because he exerted so much energy. And the reason he did it is because he got hurt earlier in that 3rd round. So there's a little bit of nuance we have to understand when we watch that fight and when we look at the stats specifically, right? Anyway, the 4th round starts and Jamahal Hill looks like he does in the 1st round. His cardio is back to 100%. His cardio bar, like a video game, seems like it's back to 100%. And Thiago Santos is the one who's tired. Jamahal Hill puts the pressure on, backs Thiago Santos up against the cage, unloads with shots, eventually gets a KO, you know, gets on top of him, drops him, gets on top of him and pounds him up for a fourth round win, man. And I have to say that I was extremely impressed with Jamahal Hill's cardio in that fight. But we have to take into account that he was 2-1 down going into the 4th round and going into the championship rounds, right? And that was against Thiago Santos, and I don't think Thiago Santos is nowhere near as good as Glover Teixeira. We go back to the Darko Stojic fight with Jamahal Hill, and Thiago Stojic was able to get him down 6 times there as well, just like Santos was. So that's a little bit alarming again, you know. Again, though, in that fight, he had good cardio. He was able to work back to his feet every single time, and he won a decision there. So when I conclude this fight and when I break down this fight, how these 2 fighters match up against each other, I think it's almost certain. It's almost a certainty that Glover Teixeira is going to get takedowns in this fight. I also think that some people are going to be surprised at the early takedown defense of Jamahal Hill. And that's going to be very good for him because obviously he's most dangerous in round 1 or round 2. As I said, I do think he carries his power late. I do think his cardio is actually elite. I will say that I think Jamahal Hill's cardio, we haven't seen it enough to definitely determine if it is, but I do think Jamahal Hill's cardio is elite. I'm going to say that now. I do think his cardio is elite, just like Glover's is. But he's obviously the most dangerous in the 1st and 2nd round, right? Like everybody is the most dangerous in the 1st round. Every time a minute passes by, a little bit less dangerous you are, right, as a fighter. So I think that his takedown defense may surprise people a little bit early. He may be able to, stop a few takedowns. And if he does that, he's going to have the chance to put it on Glover on the feet. So I do think a round 1 knockout for Jamahal Hill in this fight is extremely live. But I think it's almost a certainty that if he doesn't get that round 1 knockout, or even if he does, because it might come later in the round, Glover will get some takedowns here. As I say, Hill may surprise you a little bit. He may defend 1 or 2, but Glover is so relentless, and he's such a good wrestler. By far the best wrestler that Jamahal Hill's ever faced. I do think he's going to be able to get him down, right? I don't know if he's going to finish him the first time he gets him down. I don't think he will. I think Jamahal is extremely tough. We don't really know too much about Jamahal Hill's jiu-jitsu at this point, so it's kind of hard for me to say whether Glover's going to be able to find the back and get the rear naked choke as he likes to do, or maybe get in head and arm. He may just slice through him like butter. There's a lot of unknowns in this fight because we just haven't seen Jamahal Hill over a long enough time frame in the UFC. So there's not many unknowns on the Glover Teixeira side. There's almost none. I know everything about Glover Teixeira, but I don't know everything about Jamahal Hill. And I also think Jamahal Hill is still improving, whereas I don't think Glover Teixeira is, right? So I think Glover's going to get takedowns. But for me, it's too volatile to make a bet. I think Jamahal Hill is going to have an extreme speed advantage on the feet. I think he can get a knockout at any point in this fight. I think he can get a knockout in round 3 and round 4 after being dominated for round 1 and round 2. I honestly do. I think he can come back like he did against Thiago Santos. He was 2-1 down going into the 4th round, and he got a 4th round KO, right? TKO. So I do think he carries his power late. I think Jamahal Hill, anytime the fight is on the feet, is going to be extremely live to get a knockout. Glover is really slow. He's a good boxer, but he's really slow. You know, we see how slow he was against Thiago Santos. And even against Jiri a little bit, but Jiri's a bit janky. He's not like straight down the middle, right? Whereas Jamahal Hill's a lot more put together on the feet. He's straight down the middle. He throws quick strikes. Jiri Prochazka's a little bit more crazy, spinning back fists, lead uppercut, stuff like that. I feel like that's harder to deal with in a sense, but he's not as fast, nowhere near as fast as Jamahal Hill. So I do think the speed gap on the feet is going to be immense. It's going to be tremendous. And we're going to see that because Jamahal Hill is going to be able to land 1-2s at will. He's going to be able to land the jab at will anytime he's on the feet. As soon as he gets his read, I think he's live for a KO. And it's going to be very dangerous for Glover to play with him at all on the feet. I dare say potentially even more dangerous than it was against Jiri Prochazka. And that's saying something just because of the sheer speed difference between Jamahal Hill and Glover. As I said, I don't think it was there as much in the Jiri fight. You know, even if you watch Glover Teixeira's fight against Thiago Santos, you know, the speed difference was massive there. And that's why he got knocked down and almost finished twice. And if you watch Jamahal Hill versus Santos' fight, Jamahal Hill was actually faster than Santos on the feet. So again, I think that shows us, because they've got a common opponent, we can pretty conclusively say that Jamahal Hill is going to have an extreme speed gap on the feet, but we can also conclusively say that Glover's going to have a massive wrestling and jiu-jitsu gap. I just don't know as much that I need to know, or enough, of Jamahal Hill's jiu-jitsu, defensive jiu-jitsu, to determine whether he's going to be able to survive those spots that he's going to be putting on the ground and then come back to his feet and get a KO. What I can definitely say is that Jamahal Hill is, you know, he probably will get a KO if the fight goes 5 rounds and is on the feet for 70% of the fight. I think he will get a KO. I don't know if Glover will get a KO, even if he gets 3 or 4 takedowns, or sorry, a finish. I can't say that, right? So that leads me to say that this is probably lined fairly accurately. -110 is fairly accurate. If I was pulling the trigger, I'd probably play Glover money line, just because level of competition is, you know, in Glover's corner. Wrestling cardio in Glover's corner, although in my opinion it's close. More ways to win. You know, I feel like that he can probably ride out top time for longer than Jamahal Hill can keep it on the feet, if that makes sense, meaning that he could win a decision, as well as obviously he could get a finish on the mat, either by KO or sub. I feel like Jamahal Hill's basically, path to victory is basically a KO here. You know, maybe a decision, but in my opinion, not likely. So Glover's got more ways to win. And he's just a veteran, you know, more experience at the top level, fighting top level guys. You know, so for all of those reasons, I think Glover's probably the money line side. But I'm actually going to go out on a limb and say Jamahal Hill wins this fight. I just have a feeling. He gets a KO. So if I was going to play this, like if someone put a gun to my head and said, what would you play? I would probably take Jamahal Hill KO. I'm just going to have a look what that is now. It's plus 115. So obviously you know, it's not that much better than -120. It's decently better, but MMA is such a crazy game. At that point, I'll probably just play Jamahal Hill's money line. But I think you can see by my incomprehensive review of the fight that I don't really want to put my money on this fight, right? To conclude, I don't really want to put my money on this fight. I don't know who's going to win. Both fighters can win. It's a tough one for me, guys. But yeah, I've said all I've said about the fight. I'm not going to say too much more because, you know, I wanted it to be about 10 minutes and it's gone about 15 minutes. So, you know me, I love my rants and I like to break down fights in depth. But yeah, I'm going to go with Jamahal Hill via KO. I'm going to say that he shocks a lot of people because I do think a lot of people are going to be on Glover. And I understand why. But I'm actually going to say Jamahal Hill gets a TKO here. So we'll see how I play it. I'm probably going to play some violence in the fight, but all the violence is completely juiced. So again, you're kind of clutching at straws to find value there. But I will look at the betting lines a little bit later on in the week as they change, as they open up a little bit more on different markets. I will speak to my team as well. If you don't know, I've got 2 handicappers working with me as well. So I'm creating a lucrative MMA syndicate. I'll speak to them. I'll get their thoughts and I'll make a decision on how I want to play the fight. But at the moment, it's a big pass for me. It's very volatile. Both fighters can win. So yeah, that's all it's going to be from me today. I'll see you in the next video, guys. And like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Good luck on your bets this weekend.